everybody, both on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Welcome to our 7th installment of Wednesday Weekly Skillshare, a program all about learning a new life skill or general life hack during your time at Pacific. Today's session is all about candle making and spell casting with AJ. My name is Amber Matier. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the GA for competitive sports and outdoor rec at Pacific Recreation, and I'll be today's moderator and every Wednesday's moderator. The session will be recorded for later posting to our YouTube channel. We have a playlist with all of our previous WWSS, our Wednesday Weekly Skillshare. So if you ever miss a session, you can hop on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions throughout the session today, you can drop them in the comment box, both on Facebook and in Zoom, and I will ask them at the end of our presenters' time. Also, for Pacific affiliated folks, I'll be dropping a little check-in form into both of those comment sections on Zoom and on Facebook. As a future plug, next week's session will be at 3:30 featuring Gabby Huffman. She was previously on for bike mechanics, and she'll be coming back to go over some macrame crafting. And at this time, I'll hand the virtual microphone over to AJ.
Hi, everybody. My name's AJ. My pronouns are he, him. I'm based in New Hampshire, but I used to live in California, and it's exciting to talk to y'all today. So a little bit of background by me. I'm a witch. I'm involved in witchcraft, and I also make candles. I started making candles because I felt that it was a really cool way to include spells into other physical forms. A big thing about my witchcraft is that I create physical items. I usually work with resin, and I put spells within resin, but I found that working with candles was really fun too. And I realized that there's a train going by, so I really apologize if you hear a train. I live right next to train tracks. But this is a finished spell candle. Wow. Oh, 1 second. Okay. There's no schedule for the train, otherwise I would have known this was going to happen. So this is a finished spell candle. It smells like orange, and it has orange and poppy seed in it. And it is a calm and rejuvenation spell. Mainly with candles, I use a lot of natural scents, but I've also used some essential oils as well. So when I started candle making, I got a lot of supplies off Amazon. Now there's also a ton of like small candle making shops that you can find both on Etsy and I'm sure around wherever you live. When I first started, I would buy like 20-pound bags of soy candle wax. You can make candles with soy wax, with beeswax, with paraffin wax. I use soy wax. I find that it's the easiest. It has the lowest melting point, and it burns clean, which I think is really nice. And it's vegan, which is good for a lot of people.
AJ, I don't think I can hear you. Your audio is cut out.
They're like $1. Oh, did you lose me for a second?
Yeah, and I'm going to turn my video off so that hopefully that helps.
Okay. So I would just get mugs from Amazon. They're $1, and then you get really cute little mugs. And I've got this one. It's got a little angry cat on it. But it is a kind of thing where I love collecting mugs, but I don't have space to use mugs, so I turn a lot of them into candles. And when I started my business, I would also sell them. And then you get a lot of really unique, creative, different things. So you can use mugs, you can use a ton of different vehicles. Now that I make them a little more professionally, I also have actual like candle molds. So this metal one here, you can see it's kind of did a tester. Basically, I pour the wax into here, and then once the candle's cooled, after about 2 days, I pop it out, and you get what's called a pillar candle. I also have really tiny little ones. There's also different types of wicks. Sometimes when I'm candle making, I use this. So it's a metal rod that I put in at the base of my candles. This is only if I'm going to be making a pillar candle. If I'm making one of the mug candles, I have to use one of these wicks, which again, you can get on Amazon or any like Etsy shop, usually in a whole bunch of them. And you just stick them to the bottom. There's a lot of different ways to put wicks in. Usually a lot of people do like 2 pencils so that the wick stays in the center. I've used like tape before. It's a lot of like figuring out what works for you. You're probably never going to get a candle wick completely straight, and that's okay. Like, you're doing candle making for fun. It's a lot cheaper than buying candles, and it's just a really fun activity. So also talking about wax, with beeswax usually comes in big blocks, but you can get it in like just tiny little pieces that are easier to melt down. This is a beeswax candle. It's not one that I made, it's one a friend made. I personally don't use beeswax, but they look like this. They're yellow. They smell amazing. They just have a slightly higher melting point, so you often just have to keep whatever wax you have on the stove a little bit longer. So yeah, I would recommend buying a specific container that you only use to melt candle wax in, because they can take a lot of damage, and it's very difficult to clean candle wax, so you don't want to have that mixing in with your food. Again, now that I do it a little bit more, I bought one of these. So it's a little bit more industrial. It plugs into the wall and it heats the wax, so I don't have to be constantly like on the stove, and it has a little spout, which is really cool. So when I add a scent into candle wax, you can use essential oils, which come in bottles like this. You can also use natural ingredients. So I have a whole lavender garden, and I will often go and just pull out all the lavender. And while the wax is melting, I will put in the scent at that time. And depending on how much wax you use, there's definitely, I recommend looking online. There's a lot of different recipes and tutorials. Along with the scents, there's also color. So I have these red blocks, and basically I can put a red block in with my wax, so I'm heating it. Again, there's a little bit of math that goes into this with how much wax to the color, because if you put too much color in, the wax isn't gonna burn correctly. So you have to be really careful about that. There's also some colors that you can just like liquid drop in. I have not used those before. I usually just use the color blocks. Yeah. So what are some reasons to make your own candles? First off, I mean, they're fun, they're way more affordable, you can experiment with more scents, and they're also like great gifts. Honestly, like, who doesn't love a homemade candle, especially if you're going to go the route of like getting some cool mugs from Goodwill. Big reason that I use soy wax is because it burns clean. So when you're done with this candle, you wash it out with hot water, and you can use this mug to drink coffee and tea and whatever. Or you can make another candle in the mug. You can't necessarily do that with paraffin wax or beeswax. They just don't burn as clean. There's still ways to clean out those containers, but soy wax is a little bit easier, and it's a little bit cheaper. So I talked about a couple places to buy. A lot of the stuff you can buy on Amazon, but if you don't want to support Amazon, which I try really hard not to support Amazon, but it is hard as a crafter and artist. There's a lot of just more affordable options on Amazon. There are a ton of Etsy shops. You can also get starter kits for candle making at Joann's and Michael's. They are a little bit more expensive than going on to like an online Etsy store and just buying in bulk. But of course, if you're just doing this as a fun side thing, I would recommend going to Joann's or Michael's. They're in the same section as the soap making. Be really careful though, if you're buying colors or scents, make sure that if you buy colors for soaps, it's not going to work in candle wax at all. There's going to be no color. So you have to be careful about that. So a little bit more background onto how to make candles. So let me grab some wax actually. So this is what soy wax looks like. It's little chips. This is how I prefer to buy it because I can scoop it up in my little lemon jar, put it into whatever container I'm heating it in, and then you want to let it go all the way down. You don't want to see any of the chunks of wax anymore. It should be complete liquid. After that, you would stir it a little bit. If you want to add a scent, that's when you need to add it. So you can add lavender scent, cinnamon, all kinds of things. You let that sit for a second, and then you're going to get your containers ready. So if you're going the way of a cute Goodwill mug, first, obviously, you want to clean them, take off whatever price tags are on them, and then you're going to take a wick.
AJ, you cut out.
And then pour. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah, we lost you for probably like a couple sentences. So you grab the wick and then yeah.
Thank you. So you grab the wick, and then there are sticky dots that you can put at the bottom of your mug or candle vehicle. I find that those don't really work. With hot wax, the glue, whatever glue is in there, is just unstable, and it won't keep the wick on the bottom. So I often put the wick in, pour the candle wax. Make sure you have a little bit left over because as the candle hardens, it's going to shrink. Once I have all the wax down, I'll do 2 lines of tape. You can do popsicle sticks, you can do pencils, just in 2 straight lines so that this wick has a place to kind of lean against so it can be in the middle. And then basically for a mug this size, the candle is going to start hardening in about 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to decorate your candle, so if you want kind of things like this, you want to wait until the candle has started to harden around the edges, and it will become like a filmy texture. It won't be completely clear anymore, and that's when you can start decorating. You can decorate with I've got the orange I use, the poppy seed that I use, and then there's stuff like this from my garden. I can put like entire pieces of lavender, and usually if the candle wax has congealed enough, it will just hold it up right there, and then it solidifies around it. So your finished candle will have these really cool little decorations, and it's great for when the candles start burning. It adds extra scent to them as well, which is really awesome. Yeah, I'm also going to talk a little bit about spell crafting because that's a big part of my work. Especially when I work with candles or any type of spells, I like to keep them really simple. And that's really important with what type of scents you want from your candles as well. If you need ideas, honestly, looking at any like Walmart candle section, anything like that, know what kind of scents you're interested in. I personally love cinnamon and vanilla. And so I've used real cinnamon sticks and included that into the different spells and into the scents. It also makes a really cute decoration. So, I also have, I've started drying lemon slices that I'm going to be putting in candles. Lemon slices themselves don't have a lot of scent, but it's a really cool decorational surprise. I've seen candles with crystals inside, not really too. You want to add a little magic into your pieces. A big part of my witchcraft is working with sigils. If you don't know what sigils are, they are symbols that hold power. So some examples are like these. I actually have one right here. It says, "This candle radiates positive energy." So it's that one right there. I will often make a candle with one of these molds, and when I pop it out, I will carve that symbol into the wax. And then from there, I can add salt or color or even glitter into the engraving so that you can see the mark from far away. That's a big way that I like to add witchcraft into the different candles that I make. You can add glitter into candles. I would be careful. You want to make sure that the glitter you're using isn't flammable. Most of them aren't, like craft glitter, glitter for makeup. There is edible glitter too if you are in that like baking section of Joann's or Michael's. You can use glitter in candles, and that can be really fun. I personally would recommend adding it into each piece individually, because if you add the glitter into your mixing pot and you want to make candles without glitter later, it's very difficult to get rid of that glitter. But yeah, you can add glitter. You can add all sorts of salts. These are all dried flowers that I have that are from both from my garden, and then any flower bouquets that I get, I like to dry out all the flowers. And while they don't have any scent, they're really cool to hide inside the candle wax or decorate the top with. It just makes each piece that much more special. I've also used, this is moss. So you can use, I would recommend using the moss that's in like the crafting stores, but you can put that on top of your candles. I would recommend putting it on the edges as it can be a little bit flammable, but overall it's really safe to use. And there's a lot of different ways that you can decorate your candles. A good point to know is make sure that if you are giving your candles away or choosing to sell them, you want to know how long it takes to burn. Candles of this size generally, they also they weigh a lot, just so you know, but generally my candles take 10 to 15 hours to burn. The safety regulations for candles is usually that you don't want to burn them for more than 2 to 3 hours at a time. So you don't want it burning all night, obviously, because fire danger, but you don't want it burning for multiple hours. So if somebody follows all those regulations, burns them for 2 hours every day, they're going to last about 15 hours. Versus if they're gonna have it burning for like 5 to 6 hours a day, they'll last a little less. A thing I love about mug candles specifically that you don't get with pillar candles is that as the candles burn and you get all of the liquefied candle wax, at the end of the day when you blow out that candle, all of that wax is going to harden again, and it just kind of builds back up the candle a little bit, versus the pillar candles, as soon as they burn and start dripping, that candle wax is essentially gone. Besides starting from scratch for candle making, you can also take existing candles, melt them down, and pour them into a new container. So if you have pillar candles that are half burned and you want to use them for something else, or even like I found candles at Goodwill before and you like the scent of them, but you want to put them in a different container, you can melt them down and put them into like a cute mug. You know, there are a lot of different possibilities with candle making. I would also say every wax burns differently. Soy wax has a lower melting point, so they're easier to make, but if you leave a soy wax candle in direct sunlight, it is going to melt a lot more than a beeswax candle. So they do go a little bit faster. Like these tiny little candles are very much like 1 to 2 hour candles. They go really quickly, but they pack a lot of scent in them if you know how to mix your scents well, which can be really nice. And I would say it's really good as far as like beginner candle making to work with soy wax. And you're someone who's vegan and that's something that's important to you, I also find that they're the easiest to blend in scents, as soy wax has a pretty natural, clean scent. Paraffin wax is very processed, and I find that it's harder to melt and harder to mix in the scents because it has to be at a specific temperature to melt. Beeswax is great, and I have worked with it before and it has been pretty okay, but beeswax has its own natural scent already, and that can be hard to mix in other scents with that. Yeah, so I just talked a little bit about scents. Again, you can use essential oils. You can also use natural scents too. Like if you have cinnamon lying around like you would put in cooking, you can put that in your candle wax. You can also decorate your candle with that. It obviously won't have the same impact as using an essential oil or a specific candle scent, but it is still gonna work. So you can mix that kind of stuff in. Same with mint. I've mixed mint leaves from an actual like mint plant in before, and that's worked really well. There is a lot of room to play with candle making. So yeah, I think that that's close to the end of my time. If there are any questions about spells or candle making.
So the one question that we have right now is, are there any good DIY ways to dye candle wax? So like crayons or any of that good stuff.
I would highly recommend if you go get birthday candles that are a specific color, even if they're this, let's say they're red, if you put that in with your candle wax, it's gonna make like a pink candle. That's a really great way, is using like already existing candle wax and candle colors. I feel like I've seen some DIY stuff with crayons. I would say if it's a paraffin wax that you're using, then you can do it with crayons, because those are also paraffin wax. But I don't know if it would work well with beeswax. I would say it would work with soy wax because it's really easy to integrate things into soy wax, but I think it does change the overall composition of your candle. But definitely like birthday candles, if you just want to get like a light shade of pink or something, you can do red birthday candles and just melt them in and take out the wicks. And that's a really good DIY way to add color into them. Good question.
Cool. I'll put Enzo on the spot. I don't know, Enzo, do you have any questions about candle making?
Indeed, I do. So I'm curious, so I know you mentioned a little bit about scents and stuff. And I know you mentioned a little bit about like mixing scents, but do you have any tips for like do's and don'ts of like, oh, I tried this and these two scents like do not work well together, or anything like that?
So I would say, from my personal experience, orange scents has been really hard to get to actually smell like anything. So I have the only candles I have as examples are the orange ones, because they just don't sell well. They often like smell really nice when you pick it up, but it's very difficult to get the orange scent to stay as you're burning the candle. That's why it's really important that if you mix a scent in, you have to do it while the wax is melting in the original pot, because if you add it in later, it's just not going to keep that scent while it burns. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I have a lot of scents that I've found to be like bad as of yet anyways.
Great. Yeah, Bam makes fun of me because I love fall scents. So everything is some type of cinnamon or apple or and vanilla. And then she's like, why do you have springtime breeze in here? And she's just so, if I was ever going to experiment, now I know. Thank you.
Yeah, cinnamon is awesome. And I found great success with literally just putting like ground cinnamon or like full cinnamon sticks in my candles. I think that works great, but I'm sure there's like cinnamon you can use too.
Yeah, I feel like the only candle that was like really, really bad was one that you got at Goodwill. That was like grandma.
Oh my
Do
gosh,
you remember
yeah.
that one? Yeah, that was like the worst smelling candle, and it made our entire apartment smell so bad. And I was like, what is happening? Yeah.
I think it was like a cherry candle. but it was bright red and I wanted to try and see if I could use the color. So that's why I recommend birthday candles, because they don't have a scent. I really did not think, like, I didn't think it through. Yeah. I guess that's a good tip too, is when you're first mixing the wax sealer, the scent is going to seem really strong, and that's a good sign. If you can't smell it when you're mixing it, you're not going to be able to smell it once it's hardened. Yeah, that was, wow, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. That was such a bad experience.
That was a good question, Enzo.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 questions that were in the queue. How can people find you? What are your social media handles?
Oh yeah. So my social media is Pocket Bean. I'll be selling some candles this Christmas time with a bunch of new scents, but I make clothing and I make jewelry primarily. Candles are kind of a fun side thing, but I honestly just found a lot of mugs I loved at Goodwill. And I needed a reason to buy them and also a reason to get rid of them. So thus I started selling candles.
Cool. I will make sure on Facebook and when this is recorded and posted to include your social media handles.
Thank you so much.
Legit series. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, AJ. Really appreciate it. And then jokes for everybody who's watching this. We are in the same house right now. Fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So again, a reminder of next week, 3:30, we'll be back here with macrame crafting with Gabby. And again, thank you, Andrew,